The great hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with voices from a dozen different worlds. Ambassador Taman stood at his usual spot near the crystal windows that looked out into the endless stars. His blue skin gleamed under the artificial lights as he watched the other delegates argue about trade routes and mining rights. 300 years had passed since the humans vanished. 300 years since the galaxy had last seen their strange pale faces and heard their odd languages. Most beings in the hall had never even seen a human. They knew them only from old stories and faded pictures in ancient databases. Tai Min was different. He spent his free time reading old human files and watching their recorded messages. There was something about them that fascinated him. The way they solved problems. The way they never gave up even when everything seemed hopeless. The way they could make friends with any species they met. But today the council had more pressing matters to discuss. Captain Sora stepped forward to address the assembly. Her tall frame and silver armor made her look like a warrior from the old legends. She commanded the coalition's finest fleet and had never lost a battle. Her voice carried across the hall with authority that made even the most argumentative delegates fall silent. Fellow council members, Sora began, our deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual signals coming from the outer rim. These signals appear to be some kind of automated transmissions, but they use a language pattern we cannot identify. Dr. Jinho rose from his seat in the science section. His crystal body reflected the light in brilliant colors as he activated his data display. Ancient symbols and wave patterns filled the air above the assembly. I have been studying these transmissions for the past week, Dr. Jinho said. His voice had a musical quality that all crystalline Ascari possessed. The mathematical structure and linguistic patterns match records from the old human archives. These signals are being broadcast in human language. A wave of laughter swept through the hall. Several delegates shook their heads and made dismissive gestures. The representative from Theta Colony stood up and pointed at the display. Respected, Dr. Jinho, surely you cannot be serious. Humans have been gone for 3 centuries. They were a primitive species that barely mastered space travel. Their technology was crude compared to what we have today. These signals must be coming from some old human equipment that finally broke down. More laughter filled the hall. Even some of Tai Min's closest allies smiled at what they saw as Dr. Jinho's foolish theory. But Tai Min felt a cold chill run down his spine. He had read the old records. He knew what humans were really capable of. Captain Sora raised her hand for silence. While I agree that human involvement seems unlikely, we cannot ignore these signals. They are growing stronger each day and appear to be moving closer to our core systems. I recommend we send a patrol fleet to investigate. A waste of resources, declared Chancellor Mujin from his golden throne. His species had ruled the galaxy's economy for 2 centuries and saw everything in terms of profit and loss. These signals are probably just cosmic interference or maybe some pirates using old equipment to confuse us. Send a single scout ship, if you must, but nothing more. Taemin stepped forward. His position as senior ambassador gave him the right to address the council directly. Honored colleagues, I believe we should take this matter more seriously. The human archives contain warnings about their deep space exploration projects. Before they disappeared, they were working on technologies we still do not fully understand. Ambassador. Taemin, interrupted President Kyung-soo. Your fascination with human history is well known, but we cannot base policy decisions on ancient fairy tales. Humans were a minor species that contributed little to galactic civilization. They left because they could not compete with more advanced races. The president's words stung Taemin deeply. He knew the real history. Humans had not left because they were weak. They had helped create the coalition. They had shared their technology freely. They had fought alongside other species against the Void Pirates and the Machine Rebellion. But over time, other species had grown jealous of human adaptability and creativity. Dr. Jinho activated another display. This one showed star charts with moving dots of light. The signal sources are definitely artificial constructs. They move in formation and appear to be heading toward the Kepler sector. Whatever is broadcasting these signals, it has technology, advanced enough to traverse the void between galaxy arms. A hush fell over the assembly. The void between galaxy arms was considered impossible to cross. No known species had technology capable of surviving the journey through empty space that stretched for millions of light years. Captain Sora studied the star charts with growing concern. "How many signal sources have you detected, Dr. Jin-Ho?" Initial. "Scans show at least 50 distinct transmitters, but our equipment may not be sensitive enough to detect smaller objects. The actual number could be much higher." 50 ships crossing the void, Sora murmured. "No pirate group has that kind of capability. This is beginning to look like an invasion fleet." President Kyung-soo stood up from his throne. His massive bulk cast shadows across the assembly floor. "Even if these signals come from some unknown species, the Coalition Navy can handle any threat. We have over 10,000 ships spread across 100 systems. No force in the galaxy can challenge our military might." Taemin wanted to remind the president about human military tactics, but he knew his words would fall on deaf ears. The coalition had grown comfortable in its power. They had forgotten that the galaxy was full of surprises. The council session continued for several more hours, but no real decisions were made. President Kyung-soo ordered a small patrol fleet to investigate the signals, mostly to avoid looking completely foolish if something actually appeared. Most delegates returned to their usual concerns about trade disputes and resource allocation. But Taemin could not forget the star charts Dr. Jin-Ho had shown. 50 ships moving in perfect formation, across impossible distances. Ships that broadcast in a language the galaxy had not heard for 300 years. That night, alone in his quarters, Taemin accessed the restricted human archives. Page after page of technical documents and personal journals filled his screen. He read about human dreams of exploring beyond the galaxy. He read about their experiments with exotic matter and dimensional folding. He read their final messages before the Great Exodus. "We go not in defeat, but in hope," one journal entry said. "The galaxy has forgotten what it means to reach for the stars. Perhaps when we return we will remember together." Taemin closed the archive and looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, 50 ships were moving toward Coalition space. Ships that might carry the descendants of a species the galaxy had dismissed as primitive and weak. But Taemin had read the stories. He knew what humans could accomplish when they set their minds to a task. If they were really coming back, the galaxy was about to remember why humans were never truly forgotten. The signal sources would reach Coalition space in less than a month. Mining Station Kappa 7 floated in the darkness between two dead stars. The massive facility processed rare metals from asteroid fields that stretched for millions of miles in every direction. Workers from 20 different species operated the great machines that carved up space rocks and extracted precious materials. Station Commander Ho-seok was reviewing daily production reports when his communications officer burst into the control room. The young Thalorian's face showed pure terror as he stumbled toward the main console. "Commander, you need to see this right now," the officer gasped. "Something just appeared on our long-range sensors. Multiple contacts coming in fast from the void sector." Ho-seok moved to the main display screen. The scanner showed empty space. Just moments before, but now dozens of bright dots were moving toward the station at incredible speed. The contacts had appeared without any warning, as if they had materialized from nothing. "Run a full diagnostic on the sensor array," Ho-seok ordered. "This has to be some kind of equipment malfunction. Nothing can travel that fast through void space." "Sir, I have already run 3 diagnostics. The equipment is working perfectly. These contacts are real, and they will reach our position in less than 10 minutes. Ho-seok activated the emergency communication system and sent an urgent message to Coalition Fleet Command. "This is Mining Station Kappa 7 requesting immediate military assistance. We have unknown contacts approaching our position at impossible speeds. Estimated time to contact is 8 minutes. 3 sectors away." Captain Sora received the distress call aboard her flagship Stellar Guardian. She had been conducting routine patrol operations when the message reached her communication center. The urgency in Commander Ho-seok's voice told her this was no false alarm. "Navigation, set course for Mining Station Kappa 7 at maximum speed," Sora commanded. "Communications, contact all patrol vessels in our sector. Tell them to form up on our position and prepare for possible hostile contact." Captain, her tactical officer reported, even at maximum speed we will not reach the mining station for 40 minutes. If these unknown contacts are hostile, the station will be defenseless. Sora studied the tactical display showing her fleet's position. She commanded 12 of the Coalition's most advanced warships, but they were too far away to help. Send a message to Station Kappa 7. Tell them to activate all defensive systems and prepare for evacuation if necessary. Back at the mining station, Commander Hosiok watched the approaching contacts with growing amazement. As they drew closer, the sensor readings became more detailed. The unknown vessels were unlike anything in Coalition databases. They moved, in perfect formation without any visible propulsion systems. Their hulls seemed to shift and change shape as they traveled through space. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "I am receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. The signal is very strong, but the language is completely unknown." "Put it on the main speakers," Hosiok ordered. The control room filled with strange sounds that seemed almost familiar but not quite recognizable. The voice speaking had a rhythm and tone that reminded Hosiok of something from long ago, but he could not identify what it was. Dr. Jinho had provided all Coalition stations with translation protocols for the mysterious signals from void space. Hosiok activated the computer program and fed the incoming transmission through the analysis system. Slowly, words began to appear on the main screen. The translation was rough and incomplete, but the meaning was clear enough to make Hosiok's blood run cold. "This is Admiral Hyunwoo of the Human Deep Space Fleet. We are returning to our home galaxy after 300 years in the void. We require immediate communication with Coalition leadership. Do not attempt to interfere with our passage." Hosiok stared at the message in disbelief. Humans had been gone for 3 centuries. Most people considered them to be nothing more than ancient history. Yet here was a fleet claiming to be human, approaching with technology that seemed impossible. "Send a response," Hosiok ordered. "Tell them this is Mining Station Kappa 7 of the Galactic Coalition. Ask them to identify themselves and state their intentions." The reply came back within seconds. This time the translation was much clearer, as if the unknown computer systems were learning Coalition language patterns in real time. "Commander Hosiok, we have accessed your station's database and updated our translation protocols. We are indeed human, though we have changed much during our time away from this galaxy. We mean no harm to your station or your people, but we require passage to the core systems." The first human vessel came into visual range, and Hosiok gasped at what he saw. The ship was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It looked like it was made from liquid metal that flowed and shifted constantly. The hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making the vessel appear as a dark shadow against the stars. More ships appeared, each one different from the others, but all sharing the same impossible design. Some were long and thin, like needles. Others were round like bubbles. A few seemed to exist in several places at once, creating optical illusions that hurt to look at directly. "Sir," the tactical officer whispered, "our sensors cannot get accurate readings on these vessels. It is like they are not completely solid. Some of our scans pass right through them while others bounce back normally." Admiral Hyunwoo's voice came through the speakers again. "Commander Hosiok, we understand this must be confusing for you. We have learned much during our time in the void between galaxies. Our ships use principles of physics that your science has not yet discovered. We assure you we are still human, though we have grown beyond what we once were." Hosiok activated a secure channel to Captain Sora's approaching fleet. "Captain, you need to see this for yourself. These beings claim to be human, but their technology is unlike anything we have ever encountered. They seem to be able to phase in and out of normal space at will." Captain Sora's voice crackled through the communication system. "Commander, maintain your position and do nothing to provoke these unknowns. My fleet will arrive in 20 minutes. Continue monitoring their activities and record everything." The human fleet had stopped moving and now hung motionless near the mining station. The largest vessel, presumably Admiral Hyunwoo's flagship, was 3 times bigger than any Coalition warship. Its surface rippled like water, and strange lights moved beneath its hull like living things. "Commander," Admiral Hyunwoo transmitted, We will wait here for your Captain Sora to arrive. We have been monitoring coalition communications and know that she commands your local defense forces. We wish to speak with her before continuing to the core systems. Hoseok felt a chill run through his body. These humans had been listening to coalition military communications without anyone knowing. If they could do that, what other capabilities did they possess? The mining station's sensors detected energy readings from the human fleet that exceeded anything in coalition records. Each human vessel generated power levels that matched entire coalition battle groups, yet they showed no signs of aggression or hostile intent. "Sir," the communications officer reported, "Captain Sora's fleet has dropped out of hyperspace. They are taking up positions around the station." Hoseok watched as 12 coalition warships arranged themselves in a defensive formation. Their weapons were powered up and shields were at maximum strength, but compared to the strange human vessels, they looked like ancient relics from a museum. Admiral Hyunwoo's voice filled the control room one more time. "Captain Sora, we welcome this opportunity to speak with you. We have much to discuss about the current state of the galaxy and our reasons for returning. May we suggest a neutral meeting point where our representatives can talk without fear or suspicion?" The moment that would change galactic history forever was about to begin. The neutral meeting took place aboard a small trading station halfway between the human fleet and Captain Sora's warships. The station's conference room had been cleared of all other occupants, leaving only the essential personnel from both sides. Captain Sora entered the room with her best diplomatic advisors and security officers. She had seen many alien species during her long career, but she was not prepared for what she found waiting for her. The humans looked almost the same as the ancient pictures in coalition databases, but there were subtle differences that made Sora feel uneasy. Their eyes seemed to hold depths that went beyond normal sight. Their movements were too smooth and coordinated, as if they shared some invisible connection. When they spoke, their voices carried harmonics that touched something deep in her mind. Admiral Hyunwoo stood as the coalition delegation entered. He was tall and lean with dark hair and calm eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Beside him stood Commander Da-un, a young woman whose presence radiated quiet confidence. The third human introduced himself as Diplomat Yejun, whose gentle smile did nothing to hide the steel beneath. "Captain Sora," Admiral Hyunwoo began, "we thank you for agreeing to this meeting. We know our return must come as a shock to the coalition leadership." Sora studied the human admiral carefully. "Admiral, our records show that humans left this galaxy over 300 years ago. Most of our people believed your species had died out in the void between galaxies. How did you survive such a journey?" Commander Da-un stepped forward. "Captain, we did not merely survive. We thrived. The void between galaxies taught us things about the universe that cannot be learned from comfortable worlds and safe trade routes. We discovered new sciences, new ways of thinking, and new ways of being." "What do you mean by new ways of being?" Sora asked. Diplomat Yejun answered with his soft voice. "We learned to work together as no species has ever done before. We became more than the sum of our individual parts while still remaining uniquely ourselves. We solved the ancient problems of war, poverty, and hatred that have plagued civilized beings since the beginning of time." Sora felt skeptical. "Those are impressive claims, but why have you returned? What do you want from the coalition?" Admiral Hyunwoo activated a holographic display that showed star charts of the galaxy. Red markers appeared over dozens of systems throughout coalition space. These systems once belonged to human colonies. After we left, the coalition absorbed them under various legal pretexts. We want them returned to human control. That happened centuries ago, Sora protested. Those worlds have been developed by coalition species for generations. Millions of beings call them home now. We do not wish to displace the current inhabitants, Commander Da-un explained. We simply want recognition of our original claims and a voice in how these worlds are governed. The coalition took what was ours without permission and profited from our absence. Diplomat Yejun brought up another display showing technical patents and scientific discoveries. The coalition also appropriated human technological innovations after our departure. Hyperspace navigation, energy shielding, and artificial gravity systems were all based on human research. We never received compensation for these contributions to galactic civilization. Sora began to understand the scope of what the humans were demanding. You want the Coalition to pay for 3 centuries of using your technology? We want justice, Admiral Hyunwoo said simply. The Coalition was built on principles of fairness and cooperation between species. Yet when humans left, our contributions were forgotten and our property was seized. We have returned to collect what is rightfully ours. The meeting continued for several hours as the humans presented detailed evidence of Coalition wrongdoing. They had records of every patent violation, every seized colony, and every broken agreement. Their documentation was thorough and legally precise. Sora realized she was out of her depth. Admiral, these matters are beyond my authority. You need to present your case to the Coalition Council on Nexus Prime. We intend to do exactly that, Diplomat Yejun replied. But first we wanted to gauge the reaction of Coalition military leadership. Your response will help us determine how to proceed. Sora felt a chill at his words. What do you mean by that? Commander, Dayun answered. Captain, we hope the Coalition will choose to resolve this matter peacefully. We would prefer negotiation to other alternatives. Are you threatening us? Sora demanded. Admiral Hyunwoo shook his head. We are stating facts. The Coalition can choose to address our legitimate grievances through diplomatic channels, or they can choose to ignore them. Both choices have consequences. To demonstrate their point, the humans shared technical data from their ship's sensors. The displays showed detailed scans of every Coalition vessel in the area, including information that should have been protected by the most advanced security systems. Your ship's shield frequencies, weapon specifications, and crew complement are all visible to our sensors, Commander Dayun explained. We can monitor your communications and track your movements without you knowing. This is not a threat, merely an example of how much we have advanced during our time away. Sora stared at the displays in shock. The human sensors had penetrated every defensive system her ships possessed. If they chose to attack, her fleet would be helpless. Why are you showing me this? She asked. Because we want you to understand that we are not the same humans who left this galaxy 3 centuries ago, Admiral Hyunwoo replied. We have become something greater. The Coalition can either accept this reality and work with us, or they can try to fight us and learn the hard way. The meeting ended with the humans providing Captain Sora with a formal diplomatic message for the Coalition Council. The document outlined their demands in precise legal language and set a deadline of 30 days for a response. As the delegations prepared to leave, Diplomat Yejun approached Sora privately. Captain, we know you are an honorable being who serves her people faithfully. We hope the Coalition leadership will show similar wisdom in their response to our return. And if they don't? Sora asked. Yejun's gentle expression never changed, but his eyes grew cold. Then the galaxy will learn why humans were never truly forgotten. Our legends speak of terrible things, Captain, but they also speak of justice. Sora returned to her flagship with her mind spinning. The humans had presented their case with calm professionalism, but she could sense the power that lay beneath their diplomatic words. They had crossed the void between galaxies and returned with capabilities that defied understanding. She sent an urgent message to Coalition Command requesting immediate transport to Nexus Prime. The Council needed to hear about this meeting before they made any decisions about humanity's return. But as her ship prepared to depart, Sora watched the human fleet through her observation windows. The strange vessels hung motionless in space like sleeping giants. Beautiful and terrifying at the same time. She had a feeling the galaxy was about to change forever, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. The humans had returned, and they had not come back as supplicants begging for mercy. They had come back as equals demanding justice. The countdown to the Coalition's response had begun. The Coalition Council chamber erupted in angry voices when Captain Sora finished her report. Representatives from 50 worlds shouted demands for military action, while others called for immediate surrender. President Kyung-soo pounded his ceremonial hammer repeatedly, trying to restore order to the chaotic assembly. Ambassador Taemin sat quietly in his designated seat, watching the panic spread through the hall. He had warned them this day might come, but nobody had listened. Now the humans were back with demands that would destroy the coalition's power structure. "The humans' demands are impossible," declared Chancellor Mu Jin from his golden throne. "We cannot return worlds that have been inhabited by coalition species for 3 centuries. The economic disruption alone would bankrupt dozens of star systems." Dr. Jin Ho stood to address the assembly. "Honored colleagues, perhaps we should consider the humans' proposal more carefully. They have demonstrated technological capabilities far beyond our current understanding. It might be wise to negotiate rather than fight." "Negotiate with terrorists?" President Kyung-soo's voice boomed across the chamber. "These humans threaten the stability of galactic civilization. They demand, we surrender our sovereignty to beings who abandoned us centuries ago. I will not allow the coalition to be destroyed by ancient ghosts." Captain Sora rose from her place in the military section. "Mr. President, with respect, these are not ghosts. I have seen their technology firsthand. Their ships can penetrate. Our best defense is as if they do not exist. If we choose to fight them, we must be prepared for casualties on a scale we have never imagined." "Then we will build better defenses," the President replied. "The Coalition Navy has 10,000 ships and 2 million trained personnel. Surely we can handle 50 human vessels, no matter how advanced their technology might be." "Ambassador," Taemin finally spoke up. "Mr. President, the historical records show that humans never fielded large fleets during their time in this galaxy. They preferred small units with superior tactics and technology. The 50 ships we have detected may represent the entire human military, but they could also be just an advanced scout force. Even if there are more of them, we have the advantage of numbers," President Kyung-soo declared. "I am ordering full mobilization of coalition forces. Every available warship will converge on the Kepler sector to deal with this human threat once and for all." The vote was swift and decisive. 43 worlds supported military action, while only 7 voted for continued negotiation. "Ambassador," Taemin's people were among the minority, along with Dr. Jin Ho's species and a few others who remembered human history. Within hours of the vote, coalition fleets began moving toward human positions. Admiral Subin commanded the largest battle group ever assembled in galactic history. Over 500 warships of every class and configuration headed toward what would become known as the Battle of Kepler Station. The humans waited patiently as the coalition armada approached. Admiral Hyunwoo's 50 ships spread out in a loose formation that seemed random to coalition tactical analysts. There was no obvious battle line or defensive strategy visible in their positioning. Commander In Young led the coalition's elite tactical squadron aboard the battleship Destiny's Edge. She had studied every available record of human military doctrine and felt confident in her ability to predict their moves. Humans had always favored mobility over firepower and tactics over brute force. "All ships report ready for combat," her communications officer announced. "Admiral Subin requests permission to begin the attack." In Young studied the tactical display showing human ship positions. Something felt wrong about the formation, but she could not identify the specific problem. "Grant permission to engage. All units are to focus fire on the largest human vessels first." The coalition fleet opened fire with enough energy to destroy a small moon. Thousands of laser beams and plasma bolts streaked across space toward the human ships. The attack should have ended the battle before it truly began. Instead, something impossible happened. The coalition weapons passed through the human vessels without causing any damage. The ships seemed to become transparent at the moment of impact, allowing the energy beams to pass harmlessly through their hulls. "What in the void is happening?" Admiral Subin demanded over the command frequency. "Why are our weapons not connecting?" Commander In Young watched in amazement as the human ships began to move. They did not accelerate like normal vessels, but seemed to slide through space as if the laws of physics did not apply to them. Some ships appeared in multiple locations at once. Others seemed to fold space around themselves and appear behind coalition lines instantly. All ships, evasive maneuvers, In Young ordered. The humans are using some kind of phase technology. Adjust weapons to alternating frequencies and try to catch them when they solidify. But the human response was swift and devastating. Energy beams of a color that had no name struck coalition vessels with surgical precision. The weapons did not destroy the ships but instead disabled their engines, weapons, and life support systems. Within minutes, dozens of coalition warships were floating helplessly in space. Admiral Hyunwoo's voice came through on all communication channels. Coalition forces, you are fighting a battle you cannot win. We do not wish to kill your crews, but we will defend ourselves if you continue this attack. Stand down and we will allow you to retreat with honor. Admiral Subin refused to surrender. All remaining ships concentrate fire on coordinates Delta 7. Use everything we have. The coalition fleet unleashed a second massive barrage, this time focusing all firepower on a single point where several human ships were clustered. The combined energy output was enough to crack a planet's crust. The human ships absorbed the attack like sponges soaking up water. Their hulls began to glow with stored energy, and then they redirected the coalition's own weapons back at them. Coalition ships found themselves being destroyed by their own firepower, multiplied and focused by human technology. Commander In Young realized the battle was lost. Admiral, we have to retreat. The humans are using our own weapons against us. Every shot we fire makes them stronger. Negative, Admiral Subin replied. The coalition does not run from anyone. All ships, prepare for ramming speed. If we cannot shoot them, we will ram them. But as the coalition ships moved to ram the human vessels, something even more disturbing happened. The human ships began to multiply. Each vessel split into 2 identical copies, then 4, then 8. Soon the space around Kepler Station was filled with hundreds of human ships, all perfectly real and all capable of independent action. Fleet Admiral Subin herself commanded the human space forces from her flagship Eternal Dawn. Her voice carried across the battle space with calm authority as she spoke to the coalition fleet. Coalition Admiral, you are fighting shadows and light. We have learned to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Your 3-dimensional thinking cannot comprehend 4-dimensional warfare. Surrender now and spare your crews further suffering. Major, Dong Hyuk led the human marine forces that had boarded several disabled coalition vessels. The coalition crews found themselves facing soldiers who could walk through solid walls and appear anywhere on their ships without warning. The human marines did not kill their opponents but simply touched them. Each touch sent coalition soldiers into a deep sleep from which they would awaken hours later, with no memory of the encounter. It was warfare without casualties, victory without bloodshed. The Battle of Kepler Station ended with the complete surrender of the coalition fleet. Not a single human life was lost while the coalition forces were entirely disabled or captured. The humans demonstrated that they could have destroyed every enemy ship but chose mercy instead. Commander In Young found herself a prisoner aboard a human vessel, unlike anything she had ever seen. The interior walls seemed to be made of living, light that responded to her thoughts. The air itself felt different, charged with energy that made her skin tingle. Commander, said a gentle voice behind her. She turned to see diplomat Yejun approaching with that same soft smile. We hope you are comfortable. We know this must be confusing for you. How did you do it? In Young asked. How did you defeat an entire fleet without losing a single ship? We learned to think beyond the limitations that bind most species, Yejun replied. Your people see the universe as fixed and unchanging. We learned to see it as fluid and responsive to will and imagination. In Young stared at him in amazement. You are saying you won through the power of thought? Thought focused by 3 centuries of evolution and discovery, Yejun confirmed. We became what your species might call living gods, though we prefer to think of ourselves as gardeners tending the universe itself. News of the coalition's defeat spread through the galaxy within hours. Some worlds immediately declared their independence from coalition authority. Others sent secret messages to the human fleet offering alliance and cooperation. The balance of power had shifted permanently. The humans had returned not as conquerors but as teachers, showing the galaxy that there were possibilities beyond anything previously imagined. But the war was far from over. President Kyung-soo still commanded vast resources and millions of loyal soldiers. The Battle of Kepler Station was just the first engagement in a conflict that would reshape galactic civilization forever. Captain Sora stood in the observation deck of the human colony ship Terra Nova, watching the stars streak past as the massive vessel moved through hyperspace. 3 weeks had passed since her capture at Kepler Station, and everything she thought she knew about the universe had been turned upside down. The human ship was not just a vessel, but a living city that housed over 1 million people. Gardens floated in midair without any visible support. Rivers flowed along the walls and ceiling in defiance of gravity. Children played in parks that existed in folded space, making them appear larger on the inside than the outside. Dr. Min-ji approached Sora with her usual warm smile. The human scientist had been assigned to help coalition prisoners understand the changes humanity had undergone during their long exile. She was patient and kind, but Sora could see the vast intelligence behind her gentle eyes. "Captain, you seem troubled today," Dr. Min-ji observed. "Are you still having difficulty accepting what you have seen?" Sora gestured toward a group of human children who were playing a game that involved manipulating light with their bare hands. "Dr. Min-ji, what I am seeing is impossible according to everything I learned about physics and biology. How can children control energy like that?" "Evolution, Captain. Not just biological evolution, but conscious evolution. We learned to guide our own development during our time in the void. Each generation became more than the one before, not through genetic manipulation, but through expanded awareness of what we could become." A young human boy noticed Sora watching and walked over to demonstrate his abilities. He held out his hand and created a small star that floated above his palm. The miniature sun gave off real heat and light, yet it was completely safe to touch. "The children learn these abilities as naturally as your children learn to walk," Dr. Min-ji explained. "To them, manipulating matter and energy is as simple as moving their arms or speaking words." Captain Jae-hyun joined their conversation. The human officer had been providing Sora with tactical information about human capabilities, though she suspected he was only sharing a small portion of what their technology could accomplish. "Captain Sora, our scouts report that coalition forces are massing in the Centauri sector. It appears President Kyung-soo is preparing another major offensive against our fleet." Sora felt a wave of sadness for her former comrades. "Captain, you must understand that many coalition officers are good people who believe they are protecting their homes and families. They do not know what they are facing." "We understand completely," Jae-hyun replied. "That is why we have been trying to minimize casualties in every engagement. But President Kyung-soo seems determined to continue this pointless conflict." Elder Sung-ho approached their group with slow, measured steps. The ancient human was over 400 years old and had lived through humanity's original exodus from the galaxy. His presence commanded respect from every human on the ship. "Captain Sora," the elder said in his weathered voice, "you have been our guest for several weeks now. What do you think of human civilization as it exists today?" Sora considered her words carefully. "Elder, what I have seen challenges everything I believed about the limits of organic life. Your people have achieved something that seems closer to magic than science." "Magic is simply science that is not yet understood," Elder Sung-ho replied. 3 centuries ago, humans were as limited as any other species. We suffered from the same problems of war, poverty, inequality, and environmental destruction that plague most civilizations. "What changed?" Sora asked. "Necessity. When we left this galaxy, we had to survive in the void between star systems. There were no planets to strip mine, no other species to trade with, no external resources to exploit. We had to become completely self-sufficient." Dr. Min-ji continued the explanation. "That forced us to solve the fundamental problems of civilized existence. We learned to recycle matter at the atomic level, eliminating waste entirely. We developed social systems based on cooperation rather than competition. Most importantly, we expanded our consciousness to perceive reality in ways that allowed us to directly influence the physical universe." Sora watched a group of human engineers repairing a damaged section of the ship by simply touching the broken materials and willing them back to their original state. You are saying humans developed psychic abilities? Not psychic in the mystical sense, Captain Jae-hyun clarified. We learned to use quantum mechanics principles that allow consciousness to interact directly with matter and energy. Every human child learns these techniques as part of their basic education. A communications officer approached their group with an urgent message. Captain Jae-hyun, Admiral Hyun-woo request your presence in the command center. The Coalition fleet has begun their attack on our positions in the Core Nebula. The group made their way to the ship's command center, a vast chamber filled with displays showing the tactical situation throughout the galaxy. Sora watched in amazement as human operators controlled the displays through thought alone, processing information at speeds that would overwhelm any biological brain. Admiral Hyun-woo stood at the center of the chamber, his consciousness linked directly to every human ship in the fleet. He was simultaneously commanding dozens of battles across multiple star systems while maintaining his individual awareness and personality. Captain Sora, the Admiral acknowledged her presence. You may find this battle interesting from a tactical perspective. President Kyung-soo has assembled the largest military force in galactic history. Over 2,000 Coalition warships are converging on our position. The main display showed the approaching Coalition armada. Sora recognized many of the ship classes and could identify several of her former colleagues among the fleet commanders. The Coalition had committed everything to this final assault. Admiral, Sora said quietly, those are good people following orders they believe are necessary to protect their worlds. Please try to minimize casualties if possible. Of course, Captain, we have no desire to destroy our former neighbors, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. The battle began with the Coalition fleet unleashing everything they had learned from previous encounters with human forces. They fired weapons of different frequencies simultaneously, hoping to catch human ships in solid form. They used gravity, mines, and spatial distortion fields to trap the elusive vessels. But the humans had evolved beyond such limitations. Admiral Subin commanded the human response with abilities that transcended normal space-time restrictions. She existed in multiple locations simultaneously, directing fleet movements across vast distances through quantum consciousness linkage. Human ships began to phase through dimensions that Coalition sensors could not detect. They appeared inside Coalition formations, disabled key vessels, and vanished before return fire could reach them. But instead of destroying their opponents, the humans began a process that Sora had never seen before. What are they doing? She asked as she watched. Human vessels approached disabled Coalition ships. Sharing, Dr. Minji replied simply. Beams of soft light connected human and Coalition vessels. The energy flowed both ways, and Sora could see Coalition ships beginning to change. Their hulls became smoother and more elegant. Their energy signatures shifted to match human patterns. We are offering your people a choice, Admiral Hyun-woo explained. They can continue fighting with primitive technology, or they can accept our help in evolving beyond their current limitations. Coalition crews who accepted the human modifications found their vessels transformed into something far more advanced than anything they had ever imagined. Their weapons became tools of creation rather than destruction. Their engines could traverse dimensions as easily as normal space. But most importantly, the crews themselves began to change. The human modifications awakened dormant potentials in alien minds, allowing them to perceive reality in ways they had never dreamed possible. Commander In-young was among the first Coalition officers to accept the human offer. Her ship, Destiny's Edge, became something beautiful and impossible as human technology merged with Coalition engineering. She found herself able to see the quantum foundations of reality and manipulate them through focused intention. This is incredible, she transmitted to other Coalition vessels. The humans are not trying to conquer us. They are trying to help us become more than we ever thought possible. The battle transformed into something unprecedented in galactic history. Instead of destruction and death, it became a process of transformation and evolution. Coalition ships that accepted human modifications joined the growing fleet of evolved vessels. Those that refused were simply disabled and left harmless. President Kyung-soo watched the battle reports with growing horror as his mighty fleet was either converted or neutralized without significant casualties on either side. The humans were not just winning the war. They were making it irrelevant by transforming the very nature of conflict itself. "Sir," his aide reported, "over 60% of our forces have accepted human modifications. They are no longer responding to our commands." The president stared at the tactical displays in disbelief. His grand strategy to crush the human threat was crumbling as his own forces chose evolution over loyalty to the coalition. The tide had turned permanently. Humanity had returned to the galaxy not as conquerors but as teachers, offering every species the chance to transcend their limitations and become something greater. The old order was ending, and a new age of possibilities was about to begin. 6 months after the Battle of Core Nebula, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Great Council chambers of Nexus Prime hosted representatives from hundreds of worlds, but the atmosphere was completely different from the old Coalition meetings. Chancellor Boram stood at the center of the circular assembly hall, her presence radiating the calm confidence that all evolved humans possessed. Unlike the old Coalition's rigid hierarchy, the new Galactic Federation operated on principles of consensus and mutual respect. Ambassador Taemin took his place among the representatives, still amazed by the transformation his own people had undergone. The human modifications had not changed their basic nature, but had awakened abilities they never knew they possessed. He could now sense the emotional states of beings around him and communicate through direct mental contact when needed. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," Chancellor Boram began, "we gather today to formally establish the new order that has emerged from the ashes of the old Coalition. This federation will be built on principles that honor the unique contributions of every species, while ensuring that none can dominate or exploit others." Captain Sora entered the assembly hall wearing the uniform of the new Federation fleet. The transformation process had changed her fundamentally, expanding her consciousness beyond the limitations of her original species, while preserving everything that made her who she was. She now served as Admiral Sora, commander of a mixed fleet that included vessels and crews from dozens of different worlds. The old barriers between species had dissolved as beings learned to work together in ways that transcended their individual limitations. Dr. Jin Ho approached the speaking platform to address the assembly. His crystalline body now glowed with internal light that reflected the enhanced awareness all Federation citizens shared. "The archives of human knowledge have been made available to every member world. We are learning sciences and technologies that will transform our civilizations for millennia to come." The transformation had not been forced on anyone. Species and individuals could choose their level of participation in the evolutionary process. Some worlds preferred to advance slowly, adopting human technologies gradually while maintaining their traditional cultures. Others embraced rapid change, allowing their people to undergo the same consciousness expansion that humans had achieved. President Kyung-soo and the remaining coalition hardliners had been offered the same choices as everyone else. Most chose exile to the galaxy's outer rim rather than accept what they saw as surrender to alien influence. A few worlds still maintained the old coalition structure, but they posed no threat to the new federation. "The trials of the former coalition leadership will proceed according to Federation law," announced Justice Min-soo, one of the human legal experts who helped establish the new court system. "But our focus is on restoration rather than punishment. Those who committed crimes against sentient beings will have the opportunity to make amends through service to the communities they harmed." The legal proceedings had been swift but fair. President Kyung-soo faced charges of war crimes and abuse of power, but even he was offered the chance at redemption through the consciousness expansion process. Most of the former coalition officials chose to undergo the transformation rather than face traditional imprisonment. Elder Sung-ho addressed the assembly from his honorary position. Despite his advanced age, he had chosen to remain in his original human form rather than undergo the more extensive modifications available to Federation citizens. "Young beings of the galaxy," he said in his ancient voice, "you are witnessing the birth of something unprecedented in galactic history. For the first time, multiple species are choosing to evolve together rather than compete against each other. The future you create will surpass anything any single civilization could have achieved alone." Commander Da Yun, now Admiral Da-Yun of the Federation Exploration Command, presented reports on humanity's expansion beyond the galaxy. Our deep space vessels have made contact with civilizations in neighboring galaxies. They are eager to learn about our peaceful integration methods and have requested Federation advisors to help them resolve their own conflicts. The humans had not stopped evolving during their return to the galaxy. Each challenge they faced led to new discoveries and capabilities. They were becoming something beyond what any species had imagined possible, yet they remained committed to helping others achieve similar transformation. The Museum of Galactic History had been established in the old Coalition Council building. Dr. Jinho served as its first director, ensuring that the true story of humanity's exodus and return would be preserved for future generations. The museum's most popular exhibit was the Hall of Transformation, where visitors could experience simulated versions of the consciousness expansion process. Children from dozens of species learned together about the possibilities that awaited them as they grew older. The most important lesson we can teach, Dr. Jinho often told visitors, is that evolution never ends. What we have achieved is not a final destination, but simply the next step in an endless journey of growth and discovery. Trade and commerce had been revolutionized by Federation technologies. The old system of resource scarcity and economic competition had been replaced by abundance and cooperation. Matter conversion technologies allowed any world to produce whatever they needed from basic atomic materials. Captain Jae-hyun, now Admiral Jae-hyun of the Federation Defense Forces, oversaw the transformation of military thinking throughout the Yao galaxy. We no longer prepare for war against external enemies, he explained to military academies throughout Federation space. Instead, we prepare to help civilizations overcome the internal conflicts that lead to violence and suffering. The Federation Defense Forces served as peacekeepers and teachers rather than warriors. When conflicts arose between worlds or species, Federation officers used their enhanced abilities to help all parties understand each other's perspectives and find mutually beneficial solutions. Ambassador Taemin had become one of the Federation's most effective diplomats, using his enhanced empathic abilities to bridge differences between species that had been enemies for centuries. The old coalition tried to create unity through force and law, he often said. The Federation creates unity through understanding and shared purpose. The transformation was not without challenges. Some beings struggled to adapt to their enhanced abilities. Others became overwhelmed by the expanded awareness that came with consciousness evolution. The Federation had developed extensive support systems to help everyone adjust to their new capabilities at their own pace. Growth can be difficult, Chancellor Boram acknowledged during one of her regular addresses to the galaxy. We do not expect perfection from anyone, including ourselves. What matters is that we continue moving forward together, supporting each other through the challenges of becoming more than we were. The old human colonies that had been seized by the coalition were gradually returned to human administration, but in a form that honored both their original inhabitants and the species that had lived there during humanity's absence. The new colonial governments were joint enterprises that served as models for interspecies cooperation. As the first year of the Galactic Federation drew to a close, representatives from across the galaxy gathered to celebrate the anniversary of humanity's return. The celebration was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, combining technologies and cultural traditions from hundreds of different worlds. Children who had been born since the transformation displayed abilities that amazed even the most advanced Federation citizens. They could communicate telepathically across interstellar distances, manipulate matter and energy as naturally as breathing, and perceive dimensions of reality that older generations could barely comprehend. These children are the future, Elder Sang-ho observed as he watched young beings from dozens of species playing together in ways that transcended physical limitations. They will achieve things that we cannot even imagine. The galaxy had become a place of infinite possibility. The old barriers of species, distance, and resource scarcity had been overcome through cooperation and shared evolution. What had once seemed like separate civilizations competing for survival had become a single, diverse community, working together toward common goals. The humans had returned not as conquerors, but as catalysts for transformation. They had shown the galaxy what was possible when beings chose cooperation over competition, understanding over fear, and growth over stagnation. The Age of Legends had become the age of reality, and the future stretched ahead full of unlimited potential for all who chose to embrace it. In the Museum of Galactic History, the final exhibit showed a simple message that captured the essence of humanity's gift to the galaxy. We thought humans were only legends until they returned for war, but they brought something greater than victory. They brought the possibility of becoming more than we ever dreamed we could be. The transformation continued, and the best was yet to come.